Hello and welcome to the Corhazi Outlook, a Grand Archive TCG podcast centered around tournament results and competitive metagame analysis.
We are here to provide a glimpse into what's being played at larger tournaments and help you prepare for your next big event.
This is episode 15. I am Ken, also known as Chromatic, and with me, as always, is Aubrey, also known as Jim the Eternal.
What's up?
And it's time to talk about Worlds.
Heck yeah.
And we're really not going to bury the lead on this at any point because we were both there. So, hey, Jim, what did you think of Worlds?
Oh, man. It was a mile a minute, honestly. First off, if you haven't attended an Ascent, I highly recommend it.
Please do.
Not just because of the gameplay, like not just because it's, sort of the highest level of tournament, but because of the side events, because of like the camaraderie with your other players, because of just the showmanship that Weebs and TM32 put on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was just a very well-run event. There was always something going on, and I just felt like it was a cool place to hang out, let alone, go for the fun of playing the game also.
Yeah, if you watch the stream at all, you can get a pretty good picture as for just how much the production has gone through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
But I still think that watching it online and being there are two completely different things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I always am really excited to travel for these because I always run into a lot of folks that I've just become familiar knowing and seeing along the circuit, and it's really just great to catch up with them.
Must be nice to have friends.
It's weird. It's a strange feeling, but no, it's nice. To everyone that stopped by to say hello, thank you. We appreciate it. And,
we did run into a couple of people that listened to the podcast.
Yeah, so that was really great to hear. It's nice to know that we're not just shouting into the void. Thankfully, our analytics show otherwise. That was great. Honestly, yeah, the whole event was very well run. From the actual main event to a lot of the side events which we got to participate in. It was just a complete blast, a complete whirlwind. So
Yeah.
We did get a little sick afterwards. So we are coming off of that.
Yeah,
and,
a little bit delayed here.
A little delayed, but hopefully we can give you a good recap of what happened because, boy, it was a show.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as our performance went,
Yeah.
we played in the 3v3
Indeed.
with M-Duo13
Yes.
of Fractal of Insight fame.
Yep.
We went 4-4 all told.
Yep.
Which is okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Really, we got to shout out M-Duo13 for basically being the hard carry.
Yup, he went
by
7-1.
himself, he went 7-1, and he did his best to carry us as best as he could. But big ups to him because clearly he has put a lot of work into his Genbu play, and it really paid off here. The only time that it really didn't pay off was his opponent opened double brackish Ludist, and I mean against Genbu, you can't really do a lot.
I think his one loss was the round where all of us lost.
Yeah, that was the one where we all got creamed. So like it was just
Wasn't gonna matter.
we just got skill diffed like across the board. So like it's
I ended up being on the Philo seat,
Yep.
and I kind of didn't fight it. We had a sense of like this is sort of the optimum layout for decks in terms of like fire, water, and wind.
Yeah,
and I just kind of picked up whatever was left over and ran with it.
Yeah.
So got a little bit of practice on Philo, not enough practice. And in fact, I could pinpoint 2 specific decisions I made that would have changed losses into wins. So I went 3-5, and if I had honestly like a day more of practice, it would have been 5-3.
Yeah. As for me, I went through a couple decks trying to figure out what I wanted to play. I actually put some time into Win Luxem for a hot minute. I really enjoyed my first couple days with it. It just sort of felt, after giving the deck a lot of shade, just about like really, really odd, infinitesimal things, I finally gave it a spin and I was like, oh, this is actually really fun and enjoyable. You just draw a ton of cards and you have a great time.
Man, my experience with Win Luxem is the exact other direction. Like, I have always been a fan of Wind Luxem.
Right.
I wanted it to be good ever since, back in the day, trying it out with Cunning Broker.
Yeah, you had your
existed,
own sort of take on it, right? Yeah.
And playing Modern Wind Luxem, I'm like, I don't know what this deck does. I'm just flailing. Sometimes it works. Help, how do I play?
Well, here's the thing. I encountered that probably around the third day that I was playing that deck because Noel on Luxera's map put a very good article up about the experience of playing with Luxem at I believe it was OCE Nats, and it's a deck that does very, very well into a lot of things, or it's pretty even to a lot of things, but in order to actually get those matchups, you need to play very optimally in order to do that. And you need to basically, I don't want to say play perfectly, but basically play perfectly. And as I was sort of exploring it a bit more, I kind of got the feeling of what those situations kind of were and what sort of the suboptimal situations were, and it was really kind of scary and intimidating to actually operate. So
That feels very real. Like, just
yeah.
from the little bit that I ended up playing with it, it is a deck with a high skill ceiling and a low skill floor.
Yeah, so if you are a Win Luxem player out there, I give you all the props in the world. It is a little rich for my blood right now. Perhaps I will come back to it, but for this tournament, I settled on Wind Astra, kind of a comfort pick. Had a rough go of it, honestly, overall. Yeah. Oh my god, I only went 2-6, which was pretty rough, honestly. Some very unexpected things came my way. I got Razor Galed out.
Yep.
One game.
Yeah, that was a fascinating.
That was really rough. I got hit with Water Neos twice. Once by Poro, the man himself, running his own unique brand of Water Neos, and then another one on the Eternal Kingdom build with Smash with Obelisk. And in both cases, it was really, really rough. So yeah. That's a crazy time there.
Well, I think this is a great jumping off point to talk about what that tournament looked like.
Yeah, and, very different than what you would normally see.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to preface this by saying, unlike our usual episodes, there's not going to be a lot of takeaways here for the normal kind of meta that you run into.
Yeah.
Looking at the 3v3 Ascent, and even looking at the World Championships, there's not going to be a whole lot of data that you could take into a Regionals or into a normal Ascent, because the metagame here is so specific.
Yeah, with the 3v3s, your deck building restrictions really necessitate a lot of thinking outside the box and just result in a lot of compositions that you wouldn't normally see and a lot of limitations that you wouldn't normally have to sort of fight against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so let's start with the 3v3.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about it.
So specifically because of those deck building restrictions, you ended up with a lot of variety that you kind of wouldn't see in a regular tournament.
Much more variety than usual.
So for this event, we had 141 teams.
Yes.
At 3 players per team, that is 423 players.
That is a huge number of people. That is crazy.
And there were a couple of breakdowns that I think was interesting to look at, right? So if you look at the seat level, seat A had a higher percentage of win decks versus almost anything else. And of those win decks, it was mostly kind of the usual suspects for wind. There was like 12-15% of Shadow Strike, 10-something% of Wind Allies, 10-something% of Astra,
the usual
and then
ones.
Some Seiryu, some other stuff. But mostly it was kind of the popular win decks. Right. B as a seat was more of a balanced seat.
Yeah.
You found like 37% of the decks in B were wind.
That matches up to my experience. Yeah.
And then I think 32% water, 29% fire. So still like a little bit more wind focused, but more balanced than A, which I think was down at like the 25% fire range.
Yeah. I mean, B really just had like a lot of very interesting decks sort of in the middle. Just the whole gamut, really.
Yeah, absolutely. B had a lot of variety.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too.
Oh, yeah.
C was the fire seat.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of mostly for people,
The number of times that I looked over and saw you in a fire mirror was just very
absolutely.
high.
C was 37% fire decks. And 30% of the decks in C were fire aggro.
Yeah.
Or, some flavor of fire aggro.
Some flavor of aggro.
Because boy, was there some variety when it came to flavors of fire aggro.
There's quite a bit.
And water, like you kind of would expect, for, if A is the wind seat, C is the fire seat, maybe B is the water seat.
Yeah.
Water was pretty evenly spread.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
Honestly.
Like wind sort of filled in the gaps with C being heavily focused on fire, water kind of everywhere, and wind everywhere else. Right? Water had I think 32% of the A slot, 32% of the B slot, 32% of the C slot, completely even.
Honestly, nice distribution.
Yeah, right?
Pretty decent distribution there.
And if you look at last year, this was even more pronounced last year.
Yeah.
So this year is actually a little bit scaled back. Because last year, C was 57% fire.
Yep. That was me.
Yep.
That was me there.
I think last year you actually had the water, wind, fire split that you would have expected. It was 45% wind on A, 45% water on B, and an absurd amount of fire on C.
When you consider the fact that we literally had half the cards that we do now, it kind of made sense that everything just sort of fell kind of neatly into a very general configuration.
The thing that I think is really interesting about that is overall teams fell into this theory of we want to put the fire deck, the aggressive deck, into the C slot.
Yeah.
And overall, we want to put the sort of thinkier deck, the controlling deck, into the B slot.
Right.
And then A is kind of whatever's left over.
We'll just put something here.
Yeah, we'll just put something there. Yeah, right. So I think it's really interesting that this ended up being a trend. that a lot of teams ended up thinking kind of this same way. However, they were kind of turning the sort of metagame Yomi in their head. They ended up landing on very similar comps from team to team.
Yeah.
As far as the statistics go, right? So if you look at any two comps, any two teams, they're going to be wildly different. But overall, the statistics kind of played out.
Yeah, in general, you'll sort of see that general comp sort of fitting into that one of those buckets. So, I mean, the really interesting thing here is that we start to see in some comps, you actually have enough cards where you can actually eschew one of the basic elements.
That's true.
That is,
So we actually see, so obviously far more variety in this event than last year.
Yes.
Just because a much bigger deck pool.
Yeah, much
But
bigger
also far more variety at this event than you'd see at a standard Ascent.
Yeah.
Or a standard regional. Or even a standard locals, right? Like, people are sort of forced to play within these specific bounds. But also that means that you have 3 people on 3 completely different decks.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of people needing to do completely different things. And it gives people a little bit of leeway, I think. It lets people pick something that they're comfortable with, as opposed to everybody trying to be on the best deck.
Right.
They're instead needing to pick the best deck for their slot.
Yeah, and also you do need a certain amount of flexibility because with it being a best of one format and the fact that you can run to basically anything, there are some trends that you can sort of expect here, but in general, you have to be prepared to handle a lot of different things. So the sort of traditional decks that you might see coming out of an Ascent or a Regionals might not be the best build for a situation like this. You might need to be a bit more flexible.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of going back to some of the more interesting stats here, you might have expected that every comp would include one of a given deck or one of a given element. And that's not exactly how it played out.
Not exactly.
The most common champion at the event was Guoja.
Unsurprising.
Yeah, Guoja's really flexible as a champion, right?
Yeah,
you can play Genbu, you can play Suzaku, you can play Seiryu. You cannot really play Byakko, but that's okay.
It's good enough.
Yeah.
It's good enough.
So Guoja was very heavily represented because almost every comp had a way to use Guoja. Guoja was still only present in 2/3 of the comps.
That's really going out of the way to show you that this is a very, very diverse.
So that means that not only did you not have a Genbu in that comp, which I think is one of the more highly represented decks in the format, you also didn't have Suzaku or Seiryu in that comp, which is... Suzaku and Seiryu maybe not as represented in terms of their elements, but like for water, almost every water deck was either Genbu or Fractals.
Genbu or Fractals, the tried and true.
That ended up feeling really interesting. The most represented deck archetype was Fire Aggro, as probably could be expected. However, even with C being the fire seat, there was only about 2/3 of the deck. The teams had a Fire Aggro deck. 96 teams, so slightly less than 2/3.
Right.
And of the 45 remaining teams, they either had a different fire deck or, more commonly, no fire deck at all.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of comps on Wind and Serene Wind, for example, just bringing in an entirely different approach, right? So you could do like Wind Allies and Astra, as opposed to bringing in a fire deck. And that still actually ended up lining up, I think, in terms of the putting the more aggressive deck in slot C. We did see a lot of Wind Allies.
Yeah,
in slot
Wind
C
Allies,
as well.
honestly, still pretty good here.
But it's a very, very varied approach to deck building for this tournament.
Absolutely. I mean, the nice thing about Astra is that it really doesn't share a lot of wind cards with a lot of other decks, so it can kind of just do its own thing, which is really nice.
Yeah. So one last point in terms of interesting statistics is for any given deck archetype, there were some archetypes that were more popular, some archetypes that were less popular. B had the most variety in terms of deck archetypes. A had 6 decks with at least 5 people playing that archetype. C had 9 decks playing that archetype. 9 decks with at least 5 people playing that archetype. B had 11. So more spread in terms of the types of decks that people were bringing for that slot compared to A or C. If you go down to decks with less representation, though, C had the most archetypes total.
Yeah.
As long as you're counting at least one person brought this deck, C had 24 unique archetypes.
That's insane.
Based on Factors of Insight data.
That's a ton.
And I bet it subdivides even further if you really want to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had a lot of really interesting setups here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Ken has some specific decks that he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these just because if I did, then we would literally be covering 3 times as much data as we normally do.
Yeah.
So some folks that I want to call out. In 25th place, we had Team You're Cute, Don't Call Me Pookie. Some fellow friends from NorCal, but notably they ran a Fire Aggro Arasana build courtesy of the Godly, which I thought was really fun. This is a deck that I've run that I think is really, really neat. We also had John Ba on a Wind Shadowstrike Tristan, making good use of Inspiring Call. Little blast from the past there.
Yeah, there ended up being a lot of inspiring calls among sort of the top Tristan archetypes, which is not usually what you see out of the Shadow Strike.
Yeah, but having a little extra flexibility to do that, I think, is really nice. So it's a nice little angle for it. And Crimson bringing back the Water Sylvie Nico, a good, strong contender in its own right.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
That's been a long time going.
Yeah. In 8th place, we had Glimpse 7 Pass. Which notably, we were talking about how some decks would eschew elements. We had some people saying that they just didn't have any fire decks. This one actually went the other direction. We had 2 fire decks. We had a Serene Fire Luxem Xander and a Fire Aggro Diao Chan. Xander, similar to Ari, doesn't need a lot of basic element cards to do its thing. It only really needs a few, so that means the other fire deck can sort of do its own thing. And then you had 40% doing good old Genbu things, which, it's Genbu. It's great. In 7th place, they have They Let Me Play, notably headlined by Poro, playtester and strong Neos enthusiast, who...
also, a hell of a cosplay?
Amazing cosplay.
Right?
Yes, right? Dongzhuo in full blast.
Yeah. It's not often that you see the player decked out in regalia, the same way the champion usually is.
Gotta say, pretty giga.
Please don't.
He left an impression on me.
He sure did.
Yeah, this is kind of the full Neos package. Play your domains, make a big wall of automatons. Throne Sentinel will protect you from any lingering bad stuff, spell damage wise, and just pump your board, and you will go to town. You'll have a great time. Also, Academy Guide is really well at home here.
Yeah,
with every single
Academy Guide with Tenoris.
Yeah, with Tenoris and Diffuse Block and Storm of Thorns, you're having a great time.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Complemented by a Wind Shadowstrike Tristan by Sarav and also Thick Opie on Fire Aggro Xander.
Not bad.
In 5th place, we had the Creative Shock team, including Limelight on Astra, our local NorCal player Rainy Day on Genbu, and Jayare on a Fire Aggro Polcock.
Oh man, the Ranger aggro deck is so wild.
You cannot stop the Hawk, my friends. It is crazy.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool deck. It's not quite as spell focused as the Assassin decks. Instead, it's playing into these fire ranged allies.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of allies with like ranged 4, ranged 3. I think there's one ally with like the right circumstances, you get ranged 5 on them.
Yep.
So it spends a couple of cards in order to hit for 5 or 6 at a time.
Yeah, I mean, Polcock 1 is just an absolute beater if you can, get the appropriate setup, and it's not that hard to do.
Yeah, it's really not.
So also it's making use of Tinderflare Pivot, which so you reuse the ranged abilities on these allies, and it's very good. It's very good. It's a great way to take them by surprise. That's everything below the top cut. So different from other tournaments, this only had a top 4 cut. So we'll go over those in a little bit of detail. In 4th place, we had Triple Shot, which includes Seba in seat A on a Water Genbu Gwoja. Kind of your typical stuff here.
Yeah, I'm expecting a lot of these decks, if it's a familiar archetype, to just sort of be the standard version of that archetype.
Yeah. The notable things is we have Idle Thoughts in here, which is really good to set up your mills, and also Aqueous Stallion is pretty great if you're not expecting a Nullifying Lantern most of the time, which only one person on your team can have a Nullifying Lantern, so there's a very high chance you're going to get that to work out.
Yeah, I guess this is a good point to talk about some of the deck building restrictions and how we think that played into the deck building, right?
Oh, yeah.
Since a lot of the defensive regalia that everybody will have in a normal 1v1 format need to be split up across a team. You can only run one copy of Nullifying Lantern, as you said.
Yep.
Only run one copy of Safeguard, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're kind of rolling the dice on whether or not you think your opponent is going to have a particular defensive regalia, that invites a lot more kind of all-in strategies that would usually get just stopped cold by one card.
Yeah.
Because the odds that your opponent has that card is down to 1 out of 3.
It also means that if you need to tech against a very specific threat, you have to get a little creative with your regalia slots, because you might have to rely on things that aren't really normally used here. Here with Saba, we have a Beastpawn Boots and a Safeguard Amulet leverage, so like clearly trying to block all the spell damage they can.
Right. Yeah,
is
and
really
maybe
cool.
he expected fractals in that seat.
Maybe so. Atomic in the B seat was running Wind Astra, notably using Art of War as its divine relic, which was a pretty good choice. I definitely will say I was pretty happy with that over the weekend. One fun piece of tech that we'll probably get into more detail once we start going into the Gauntlet and other stuff was there's a copy of Extortion Scheme here. So we're doing this a little out of order. This actually showed itself on Thursday in the Gauntlet. Aqua was running a one of sort of as his Genbu tech because it's a skill that suppresses, not a spell.
Right.
And it's quite good. Otherwise, you see a lot of the tech sort of scattered around. A lot of one-ofs and two-ofs in this deck, just because you kind of need that flexibility.
Yeah, you have a lot of glimpses,
You have a
too.
lot
You
of
look through your deck a
glimpses.
lot.
Yes, you can sort of toolbox a bit more, which is really nice. So you have a few things like Scatter Essence, you have Zephyrs, you have Spell Shield Astras, Scout the Lands to really filter stuff down. Lunar Seers is your high-end payoff. A lot of good stuff here. So... very nice. And then in the C seat, we have Blivix on Wind Shadow Strike Tristan. This is a lot of your classic stuff. I mean, what can I say? It's Tristan.
Yeah, interesting to
true.
see two wind decks like this, right?
Yep.
And especially Shadow Strike and Astra don't have a whole lot of overlap in terms of what they're bringing to the table. But it does mean that you are, maybe sacrificing a little bit on sort of like the Scout the Lands, the Surveils, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the non-trivial part of this is sort of the divine relics. Like the Great
Right.
Crusader ring is a big deal here. I mean, both decks really kind of want the ability to draw. Ari has a little bit more flexibility in terms of that because she can run the Art of War, and I think it does fit into her game plan, but still in general, like card draw is kind of at a premium here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but shout outs to Triple Shot for doing a pretty good job here. In third place, we have the Bubble Mages. This consists of Asuna in slot A on Wind Shadow Strike Tristan, running a Temporal Spectrometer as the Divine Relic.
You knew somebody was going
Because
to.
sometimes you gotta. I mean, if you're going to level 3, this is the place where Temporal Spectrometer does shine. If it comes to that. It's not always reliable, but when it works out, it's actually a lot of fun.
It seems like it should be strong. There's just a lot of Regalia hate out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We have 2 Blanches in the main board. And then other than that, it's kind of your traditional package. A one of Innervate Agility, just, as a little backup.
Yep.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, again, like playing into the kinds of defensive tricks that are usually in your Regalia, usually in your material deck. Sometimes you have to supplement them with the main deck stuff just because of the deck building restrictions in this format.
Indeed. In slot B, we have Dragowill on Fractals, a deck that he is definitely familiar with. And this is
pretty standard.
the most fractal of Fractals decks that I've ever seen. 2 Song of Frost in the main, just to stop big attacks.
Okay.
That's a big deal. And only a 1 of Gildas, but everything else is kind of
with no ability to sideboard, you kind of have to decide how much you're pre-sideboarding, what matches you're expecting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
difficult.
Very flexible. You have to be very flexible. It's tricky. And in slot 3, in slot C, we have Eidos on Fire Aggro Suzaku, which is kind of doing a lot of the things that we expect to see. We have 2 Restorative Flames in the main board because you might need that extra backup. You have to preset it basically.
Yeah, Suzaku also, like, as far as the aggro decks go, is just that like half a turn slower, I think, than Fiza or Philo.
Yeah, so if you run into an aggro thing, you kind of need to back it up with a little bit of extra life. Also, we see Staggering Strikes here, so if you run into a Tristan, that's a nice little backup, or if you run into some Stealth Allies giving you some trouble, you can use that too.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Good job, Bubble Mages. In second place, we have TMO6. If you know, you know. We have Duck Hats in slot A on Wind Allies Lorraine. A little Hawaji special here, but notably,
Cool synergy.
Notably, yeah, we got some good stuff here. We have Sunse Shangxiang. We have quite a few robots here. We have the Automated Gardener, which is just a good 2/3 with upside.
More importantly, an automaton.
An automaton as well, because this deck is running a couple Eternal Directives, so that can get buffed up pretty fast alongside your Charged Mannequins and your Shimmercloak Assassins.
Nice.
Doing a little bit of the traditional Wake Up Robots shenanigans, but not fully committed to that plan. You still have a good, you still have the Norm package doing some good stuff. You still have the regular Allies doing some good stuff. With 2 Veiling Breezes in the main board too, just to sort of protect against, big all-in strategies, Eternal Magistrates to help with level 3 decks, some Deflecting Edges just to protect your board, and 3 Brackish Ludists because Genbu is a nightmare, it's going to be played, so you might as well be ready for it. This is a card we're going to be talking about in a lot more detail down the line. In slot B, we have Liftersil on Water Fractal Diao Chen with a Temptations Facade in the main in the material deck. That's fascinating. Just to draw the card, I presume.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. You draw the card. You can probably Fracturize it too. It's actually not bad.
Yeah, if the draw the card is on enter, then Fracturizing it doesn't cost you anything.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
Nice.
That's very nice. And then in the main board, we have one of Zhan Yu, a few Idle Thoughts, just to sort of help with your milling strategies.
That's pretty rare for a Fractal deck.
Yeah, I imagine it's potentially anti-Genbu tech. I don't know how much this version wants to imbue Fractal of Rain for that extra value. It's running 15 floating memory, so I mean you might get some value off of it, so not necessarily a bad idea.
Yeah, I think most of the time you end up seeing Fast Cure in that slot.
Yeah.
So Idle Thoughts is an interesting choice.
Yeah. It probably gives you just a little bit extra value, especially if you're facing down other water mill decks.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, a sign that he wants to be imbuing the Fractal of Rain and misses Dissonant Fractal.
Quite possibly, yeah. And then in slot C, we have Okeji Business on Astra Arisana. And this
is a deck he's run a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid pick here. He's running the Arrow Trap.
Love it.
He's running a Diablerie, and then everything else is kind of as you would expect. 2 Zephyrs.
Sure.
Good strategy there against the early aggression. So we like that. Also a great way to protect your Polaris. So pretty standard otherwise. Yeah, I think a lot of the Astra decks are sort of settled on Lunar Seer being sort of the appropriate top end. So take those notes with me the next time I play this deck. Anyway, congrats to TMO6. Very, very good performance. And in first place, we are washed. In slot A, we have Alec on Wind Astra. This one has a Grail and a Safeguard Amulet. A little bit of extra tech there. Otherwise, you're sort of seeing a lot more reverence towards Fractals. You see 3 copies of Scatter Essence. 4 copies of Regenerate in place of Tendalen, which is sort of good against those aggressive matchups. 2 Spell Shield Astras. 1 Dawn's Reversal, just for those negate-heavy matchups. Not a bad compliment right there. Legit Bid is in slot B with Fire Aggro Lorraine. With a Hua Ji. So Red Hair going to go wild with this thing. In addition to Sun Se doing their thing. So otherwise, a pretty standard setup. 1 Deflecting Edge, just in case. Protect your guys. Sword Saint's Vow. Love to see that. Always love to see that.
That's a cool choice.
And in slot C, we have Glenny Boy on Water Fractals.
Yep, goes from winning Worlds in 2024 to winning Ascent Worlds in 2025.
Yep. He's got the Orb of Hubris tech going on here, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
1 Extricating Touch, just for a little sneakiness. 2 Novice Healers, just to sort of do the play the attrition game a little bit. And then 1 Song of Frost. And otherwise, kind of just what you would typically see here.
Yeah, that is some interesting nod towards the defensive options that he wouldn't otherwise have available.
Yeah. I still find it fascinating that in these results, you have in second place the World's runner-up from last year, and in first place, you have the World Champion from last year.
Yep.
History repeats, ladies and gentlemen. So, but congrats to all these teams. You know, they clearly toughed it out, and they did a great job. So there's a lot you can sort of take from this. If you're planning to do Team Standard again next year, at least. Again, these are sort of not results that you would typically see in a normal Ascent, but I think it really goes to show you that if you are planning to do Team Standard at some point and you're thinking about it, it definitely, you want to cast a wide net when you are thinking about the different choices that you could potentially run and what you might come up against.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's just going to be so many decks out in the field.
Yeah.
And you don't really need to lock yourself into the quote-unquote standard for what you think comps are going to look like.
Exactly.
There's a lot of room for flexibility, and there's a lot of room to just play what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, honestly. And, you know, you can sort of season your decks to taste based on a much wider field. So that was Team Standard.
Yeah.
A nice little appetizer before we talk about the main event.
Yeah, let's get into it.
All
starting with the Gauntlet.
Yes, the Gauntlets. So I would kind of call the Gauntlet, in my sort of observation, it felt like what we expected the competitive environment to sort of be after North American Nationals. Like, our expectations going into this was like, we saw Genbu do really well. We saw that Genbu can beat Fractals. We had the Dissonant Fractal ban, so we were sort of figuring Genbu would probably work really well in this new environment.
For all that, there was a lot of Genbu in this environment.
There was.
I think the rest of it ended up being a little bit more spread out.
Yeah.
So there was absolutely the thought of like, okay, people think this is the best deck. They're going to be playing that deck, or they're going to be playing to beat that deck, right? So 12 Genbu out of the 28 competitors in the gauntlet. Behind that, we had 5 Luxem Assassin decks. And I think they were all wind, right? Was there a Serene Fire?
1 fire.
1 Serene Fire. And after that, there's sort of this long tail of variety, right? We had 2 Astra decks, 2 Crux decks, 2 Shadow Strike decks. I kind of expected there to be a little bit more Shadow Strike.
I expected more Shadow Strike too, honestly.
1 Water Allies, 1 Wind Allies, 2 different flavors of Fire Aggro. We had one on Lorraine, one on Suzaku, one on Goja. And 1 Exia deck.
Fire Jin.
Exia, very much an outlier. I do want a quick shout out. The man, the myth on Fire Exia Jin did not do super well in the gauntlet, but ended up in my draft pod on Sunday. And dude is very chill.
Awesome.
Dude is super cool.
Love that.
So shout outs to that guy.
Heck yeah. Man, the myth. You are, in fact, the man and the myth. Also worth noting is out of the 28 people here, you needed to place in the top 16 in order to move on to the World Championship. So the actual bar to achieve here is a bit lower than your typical major event.
Yeah, the overall strategy is very different.
Yeah. So you're kind of looking to like lock in your early wins and then maybe like ID out.
Yeah, we actually see our first place out of the gauntlet ended at 404.
Which is not the record you would normally see in something like
that. Yeah, not only that, it was 4 straight wins for the first 4 matches, and then 4 straight intentional draws for the last 4 matches.
I mean, that's how you lock
it in. So this is exactly the pinnacle of that strategy. Win early, draw late.
Yep. That's how it goes here. Notably, of the people who played in this gauntlet, of the 12 Genbu players, 6 of them managed to convert to the full World Championship.
Which is about what you'd expect, right? Like 50% of the field is Genbu, 50% of the field is going to move on.
Exactly. All of the 4 Win Luxem players actually converted into the World Championship.
High skill ceiling, man.
So, y'all are clearly doing something right. We had, I believe, both of the Astra players also converted into the World Championships.
Aqua and Shang both made it out.
Which is great. Both the Tristans as well, which is very cool. And I believe also we had a couple Lorraine players. We had a Fire Aggro player and a Water Allies, Enki on Water Allies, which is this is a deck that I always like to see. The Dianwei special.
The slightly larger diversity than maybe one would have expected out of a field of these kind of top caliber
the
players.
top 28 people, right below the cusp of the really top players, basically.
So we have that very strong Genbu showing, and then a long tail of variety.
Yeah,
and overall, that's what made it out, with the exception of Win Luxem, right? Win Luxem did super well, and everything else is about half of it made it in.
Yeah. I mean, apparently Astra built different, because 2 out of 2.
It's 2 out of 2.
Pretty good.
Who's going to argue with those stats?
Pretty good. Tristan, 2 out of 2. That's not bad. Everything else, it's all over the place.
Yeah. So. But it's interesting seeing what decks people brought to the gauntlet,
yeah,
knowing that if they win, they're going to be playing in Worlds.
Yeah.
And Worlds also allows you the opportunity to switch decks, first off from the gauntlet, but also if you make it into the top 8, there's yet another switch.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity to change your deck after knowing who else is in the top 8 and what your seed is for the top 8.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there is a lot of strategy going into these deck picks.
Yeah, for sure. This is something that you would not normally see if you were going to say just a normal Ascent. This is on a whole nother level, basically, what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I suspect some of the maybe weirder decisions for decks in the gauntlet was people sort of trying to hide their power level.
Yeah.
People trying to sort of keep their tech back so that they didn't have to reveal all of their secrets immediately and then could spring something on people in the main event.
I definitely think there was some of that, which we'll definitely talk about when we get there. I do also feel like there are some players like Aqua who's just he wants to be the best Arasana in the world. I think he got in his interview, he was just I got here with Arasana, want to be the best Arasana in the world. So, kind of wearing his heart on his sleeve there.
Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah, just showing off hey, this is my tech to fight this, and we're just gonna fight it honestly.
So I think that's a good jumping off point. Let's move into Worlds proper, the actual championship.
Yeah.
So day 1 of Worlds had a fairly different layout for the deck archetypes.
This was I don't want to say it was unexpected, but it definitely took a turn.
Yeah. So, given the way the gauntlet shook out, maybe you are expecting something similar, right? Maybe half the field is on Genbu again, right?
Yes.
It turns out a quarter of the field is on Genbu and a quarter of the field is on Fractals.
Yes, because what beats Genbu? Fractals.
Turns out Fractal's not entirely bad.
Not entirely dead, you know?
So, yeah, we ended up with 8 Genbu decks out of the 16,
Yep.
8 Fractals decks out of the 16, 6 Luxem Xanders.
Yep.
And again, there was a little bit of Serene Fire, but mostly this was Wind.
Yeah, it looks like 4 Wind
and
and 2 Serene Fire.
Mm-hmm. And then we have a little bit of Astra, a little bit of Shadow Strike, 2 Wind Allies decks,
Yep.
1 Fire Aggro deck. I think this was a Fire Aggro Lorraine.
Yeah, I think it's a Fire Aggro Lorraine.
And, and 1 Water Allies deck.
Yeah, the Water Allies.
So this is less variety than the Gauntlet, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that sort of long trailing tail, although there was like the 1 Water Allies deck. This
Right.
is mostly people were kind of dialed in
Yeah.
on the decks that they think are the best, and that opinion isn't super different across all of the different players.
Right,
here.
right. I think the interesting thing that we're seeing here is that, like, well, I think there is definitely a clear vision on, like, what is the best deck. There was also a clear vision on what is the deck that beats the best deck, which you definitely saw take place here. We talked a little bit last time about how True Champion Gaming and Main Deck have been collaborating a lot. And so here, as you can see, pretty much the vast majority of them switched to Fractals.
Yeah. So almost everybody from that team.
Yeah.
I think we had Leo Blade is maybe the only standout
Yeah.
who didn't switch over to Fractals.
Believe so.
But a lot of the members of those teams collaborated on sort of a list that they felt happy with, and then ended up bringing that same list with minor changes, right?
Yeah.
One card here, one card there,
Yeah.
but very similar.
So, yeah, I mean, it clearly did a lot of work for them here.
Absolutely, they converted 5 of them into the top 8, I think.
Yeah, not bad, honestly. Yeah, in general, when you look at these deck lists, it's either a lot of people are showing respect towards Genbu as probably one of the best perceived decks in the format at this time. Whether that be through their overall deck choice, i.e. playing Fractals, or with just some of their tech choices. You sort of see that with the Astra decks running Extortion schemes. You see that with Henke's Win Allies list running Brackish Ludists in the main board. That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think other than Henke the Goat, who is
Yeah.
always a wild card and always bringing sort of these non-standard ally decks,
Yeah.
what we're seeing is the result of a pretty settled meta.
I think so, right?
These are sort of not exactly the archetypal versions of these decks,
Mm-hmm.
but overall people have agreed at this point on what cards are good in these decks and what cards don't
Yeah,
fit.
like there's a few one-off tech cards really just to sort of, give respect towards what you think you're going to see, but for the most part, like a lot of it's kind of settled.
Yeah, we're not seeing a whole lot of innovation here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's innovation. These are obviously very good players,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not trying out new stuff here. These are sort of settled lore, if you will.
Yeah.
In terms of what is good in these decks and what isn't.
Indeed. Now, if you want innovation,
Yeah, right?
we can talk about day 2.
So,
in the top 8.
moving into the top 8, this is one of the coolest things that I think happened in this format.
Oh, yeah.
So the True Champion Gaming and Main Deck collab pulled out a Fire Xander deck
yeah.
from their pockets. And this is something that they mentioned in an interview they've been tinkering with for months.
Yeah.
So this isn't something spur of the moment. And the reason this works is specifically because you can swap decks at this late stage, right? Moving into the top 8, you know what seed you are. And because of that, you know whether or not you're going to be going first or second in any given match. It's not a matter of die roll. Top seed plays first.
Yeah.
So if you know that you're going to be playing first, if you're top seed and you are guaranteed to play first in every single match, then you can pick a deck that's more coin flippy.
Yeah.
Because you have that advantage going first.
So it was really cool to see the True Champion guys break this one out. Sort of their very own unique flavor of Fire Aggro, which we'll talk about when we get there. But we're going to start with the bottom of the top 8. We're going to work our way up.
So before we move on to the top 8, the worlds, the thing that they did kind of uniquely here, because there was a lot of people in sort of that bubble range
Yes.
of the top 8, they ended up having some playoffs for the between 12th and 5th
Yeah.
in order to get that top 4.
Yeah, everyone who went 5 and 3, basically, because there were 8 people who had that same record, and
Yeah.
rather than just let the tiebreakers figure it out for them, they had everyone else play it out.
Right. So what ended up happening is, for the most part, this broke down along the seed So fourth place one, fifth place one,
Yeah.
seventh place one,
Yeah.
eighth place one.
Yeah.
The one breakdown was Quarax, who made it in from 11th place based on the breakers.
Right.
Beating Asuna. And the end result of this was we had 7 out of the 8 who graduated into the top 8 did so on the back of water decks.
Yes. So
We had the one standout, of course, Hanky, who made it in off of Wind Allies.
of course.
So it's just water's good.
Water is good.
Water's good. Not only water's good, but the best players are on water.
The best players are on water because they know how to take advantage of it the best.
Right, and I think it ended up being 5 Fractals decks, 2 Genbu decks, and then Hanky on Wind Allies.
Yes, that sounds right.
So this is where you went from the full 32. You had that very interesting playoff at the end, and then these are the players that made it in before they ended up swapping out their decks, right? Because you could swap out when moving into the top 8. We talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what they brought to the top 8.
Yeah, let's do it. In 8th place, we had Quarax, who went 5-3 on day 1 with Water Guoja, Water Genbu, sort of the classic, showing up to day 2 with a Wind Luxem Xander list. And this list is a lot of the tropes that we are used to seeing from Wind Luxem Xander. A lot of interesting one-off tech cards, which you have a lot of glib strength to sort of filter through and figure things out. A 1 of Beseech the Winds, being one of its tech pieces, a 1 of Mystic Purifier, a 1 of Scout the Land, a 1 of Thieving Cuts, and a 1 of Zhang Jiao. I do love Zhang Jiao in this setup because you're drawing a million cards, and eventually you can just rip things out. Really nice. Notably, they're going down to 2 turbocharges to make this happen, which is a little bit scary.
Interesting.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're kind of seeing the traditional Wind Luxem package here. In the sideboard, I think is where it gets interesting because this is where all the fun tech happens, right?
Yep.
So we have a Blanche in here. We have 3 Brackish Ludus, again, showing respect for the Genbu play. 2 more Mystic Purifiers. 1 Resolute Stand, in case you were getting rushed down by allies.
Just the one.
An extra slice of dice to complement the 2 that are in the main board. Surprised that it's only 2. I kind of expected you'd want at least 3 there, but, maybe there's something I don't. Another Thieving Cut, too. That actually does help supplement those numbers quite a bit. 2 Vertigus Decrease.
Cool.
A Viridian Protective Trinket and a Wind Bless Lookout, just to help with your prep generation. And
just the one lookout in Luxem. Sure.
Yeah, just the one. Yeah, Quarax has been doing work with this deck for quite a while now. Since he got off of Genbu, I believe. He's clearly had a good run with it. So it makes sense that he would bring it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Piloting it to an 8th place finish, which is nothing to sneeze at by any means. Great performance from him. In 7th place, we had Gurathos coming in, qualifying on day 1 with his Water Fractal Diaochan and bringing it into the second day. So Gurathos, notably, the main difference with his day 2 deck is he just threw a Captivating Opulence into the deck, rounding it out to a cool 61 cards.
It sets my teeth on edge, but people do it anyway.
It's worked for the Wind Luxem players.
Sure.
And, it seems to be working here. You're glimpsing, maybe not as much anymore. But
to be fair, Fractals does have a lot of card draw.
It does.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a lot of ways to go through cards.
You can
It's
trade through
It's
cards
not
a lot.
unusual.
With your Zhang Jiao, you're having a good time. So he also made a few changes in his sideboard, notably putting in some Chill to the Bones and a John Yu, removing the Gildas and also the Censor from his deck, from his sideboard. So you end up with a different sort of distribution there.
Yeah, definitely worried about different things in the top 8.
Yeah,
understandably so. To talk about the overall meta of the top 8, almost everybody switched off of water, right?
Yeah.
Everybody came in with water, and within top 8, there were 3 people still on water.
Yeah.
And none of those made it past the semis.
Yeah. People were sort of there were some people who were just confident that one deck would sort of carry them all the way. And we got a little bit of an upset there.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. But, hey, Gurathos doing well. Take it to 7th place. So big congrats to you. In 6th place, we have What Do You Min? He started on Genbu and he ended on Genbu.
Genbu going strong. This is belief in water, right?
Yep.
Water is good.
Believe in water, ladies and gentlemen.
In this case, it took him to a 6th place finish, so
Yes.
definitely got some value out of that, but didn't do super well.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. He didn't really make any changes between the first day and the second day in terms of the main deck. In terms of the material deck, he took out his Terrafang and put in some Beastbond boots. So clearly a bit more interesting.
Worried about all of those fractals that showed up in day one and then didn't show up in day two.
You're ready to just take out all the fractal decks, and then you're
it is very impressive how this
decks.
switch to fractals ended up surprising people on day one, and then the switch off of fractals ended up surprising people in the top
It's just
8.
like you put the fear of God, you spook them for one day, and then everything changes, and then they come back and they're like, what happened?
Yeah, the level of strategy that went into kind of how people chose decks in this field where deck lists are fully open and also you can change decks between days on the tournament is just, it's not something you see anywhere else in Grand Archive, and it is a very cool skill when done well.
Yeah. This is, for the record, this is probably something that a lot of players will not have to deal with directly, but it is a incredible thing to see these players just adapt on the fly. Absolutely. And have to make these like little micro optimizations and tweaks.
Just as a quick shout out, like we already mentioned that the performance for this tournament was wild.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The stream was very high quality, but it's just so great to listen to the players talk about what they're doing and why they're doing it. The interviews are done so well. Shout outs to Once in Love.
Yep.
And this just came together as a really, really very cool show. So I will again recommend going back and watching the stream if you didn't catch it live.
Please watch the stream if you haven't. You are missing out. It is incredible. Anyway, in 5th place, we have Perfy. He was on Fractals, and he continued to be on Fractals.
Yep. And this is our last water deck in the top 8.
Yes.
So the remaining 4 people in the top 8, no water here.
No water here. Where's the water? Gone. Little worried about those allies, clearly.
Yeah, but not much of a change, right?
Not too much, honestly.
And you can't really change that much in Fractals.
No, honestly.
There's not that much flexibility there.
That distribution is like pretty solid. Like I honestly thought like seeing Girthos put it the 1-up in was like, wow, that's actually kind of huge. So, but no, I mean, I think Perfy's been comfortable with his deck for a while. Did a great job, honestly. Shout out to him. Always love seeing Perfy on stream.
Yeah.
Just a super chill dude.
So from there, we're moving to the top 4. And I want to set the stage here a little bit.
Yes.
So we have 4 players in the top 4. We have 2 of them from Team True. We have Caben and Terry.
Yep.
We have Hanky the Goat, of course, because what top 4 would be complete without
Hanky the Goat? You
Hanky
cannot have a finals without Hanky the Goat.
And we have Bobo, main deck Taylor.
Yes.
And these are 3 players who converted with water decks, all of them fractals, and each of them changed to something else. So we talked a little bit about the sort of Team True Fire Xander list.
Yeah.
And sort of the strategy that went into this. And this is important because Team True Terry and Team True Caben are the 1st and 2nd seed in terms of their Swiss performance.
Yep.
So both of them were set up to go first in any match, and they chose Fire Xander specifically because they seeded well.
Yes. And I want to clarify, this is not your daddy's Fire Xander.
Yeah. They did some really cool things.
This is a little bit different than what you normally do.
We also saw Hanky the Goat switching off of his Wind Allies list to a fascinating Fire Allies Lorraine.
Oh, yeah. I really like this list.
And I
like this list a lot.
Right? Like, it's doing some really interesting things here. It's a little bit more aggressive than the stuff he usually goes for. It's almost a little bit more spell heavy than the stuff you usually see from a Henke list, right? It's got that extra burst potential. And I feel like, again, this decision has been made. He was the 4th seed. So he knew that he would have that advantage over some of the other players, especially going into... Going into the quarterfinals match.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people consider Lorraine to be the more mid-rangey Fire Allies deck, so it kind of really makes sense that it would be that pick for him.
And then main deck Taylor, again, made it in with Fractals and switched to Shadow Strike.
Yeah.
Which is a fascinating choice.
Very fascinating choice.
From what I hear about Taylor is more of a comfort pick than anything else.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously a great player, right?
Incredible player.
Picking a deck that he knows the ins and outs of, which is not to say that he doesn't know the ins and outs of Fractals.
Right.
But I think he's just a little bit more comfortable on Shadow Strike Tristan into the players that are the best in the world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think it also gives him a little bit more room to play, a little bit more room to make good decisions. Fractals is a fairly linear deck.
Oh, yeah. It's also really interesting thinking that, like, he's in the finals with 2 people that he's been collaborating with for a long period of time. So, like, in addition to just being able to know his deck, he must be very comfortable with the players and understands them and how they play. And so I have to imagine that influences his decision as well.
So these are the top 4 that we're looking at. No water decks amongst them, despite their performances in the Swiss.
Yep.
And they put forth some great performances.
Friends, were you disappointed about the lack of fire up until now? Because, boy, do we have a surprise for you.
Yeah, let's talk about these lists.
All right,
honestly.
so in 4th place, we have Team True Caben coming off of the back of his wonderful Fractals deck into the Fire Angro Xander, which is a little bit different than what we normally see. You have some staples here that you expect. You have the Poison Dagger, but there's no Grail. There's a ring to get you some extra card draw. You have a lot of the good allies like the Arthurs, the Captivating Cutthroats, the Clumsies, the Corhazi Couriers, the Lurking Assailants. And then you see there's also some other things that we can get damage, your Vermilion Decrees, your Planted Explosives, Ignited Stabs. But then you see a few things that are just a little out of place here. Specifically, we'll start with Increasing Danger. That is a card that you don't normally see in these lists. And I got to hear some of the interview with Caben as he was talking about this card. And he was basically like, this is an incredible card to play turn 1.
Yep.
Before your opponents can really properly respond to it. Anytime after that, it is a terrible idea. Don't do it. But for that very first turn, when you just need a little bit of extra energy, a little bit of extra card draw, that means your threshold to kill gets a little bit easier. You just have that much more gas to knock somebody out. Just
a really considered decision, and mostly in the deck because they know they'll be playing first.
Exactly. Dazzling Courtesan is another great pick here. This is a 3-cost 2/2 Fire Mage Human with Kindle 3, meaning you can just yeet this out for free if you've been getting your yard filled up properly, which is great because that's just another ally that can come in crashing in with a lot of damage, especially if there's an Arthur there. That's pretty good. It's got Demolition. We love Demolition. Demolition's great. Sable Remnant's a fun one. We do like Sable Remnant in this house. Heated Vengeance. We do not normally see Heated Vengeance or the Impact Hammer in Fire Xander. And this is a huge amount of damage when coupled with a Blazing Throw.
Just really focused on these very bursty turn 2 kill lines.
Yes, absolutely.
I love what this deck is doing.
It's fantastic. This is something where you have to calculate it out perfectly to get the Heated Vengeance kill. If you miss this, then you are probably dead on the crackback. But if you can lock it in, then it's great. There are so many ways that you can burst people down with this list. It is really, really something to see. The sideboard has a Quicksilver Grail, just in case. It's got some Incapacitates, just in case you need a little bit of extra interaction. Mark the target for extra sources of damage and prep counter generation. Immolation Traps, because Genbu. Gotta kill Genbu. And a Viridian Protective Trinket, just to deal with those water decks. And those extra windows of interaction. Really, really cool list.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Piloted it very well.
So his position here, 4th.
Yes.
Means that he lost in the semis.
Yep.
And then there was a bronze match between him and the other person who lost in the semis.
Yes.
So he ended up in that 4th place behind both of those two.
Yeah, notably, our 3rd place contestant, Henki the Goat, coming in from Wind Allies to Fire Lorraine, lost to Terry in his semifinals match, but saw the deck that was being played, which is the same deck that Caben was playing, and thus had a little bit more matchup familiarity, a little bit more matchup understanding, whereas Caben had not seen Henki's brand of Fire Lorraine at any point up until that point. And so I think Henki had a little bit of advantage, and he definitely used it to his advantage there and did a pretty good job. So Henki the Goat in 3rd place with Fire Lorraine. It's Lorraine with a Huaji, which is what I love to see. In addition to having a lot of the good fire staples, it's split between fire and norm. So you have the classic Arthur, Red Hair, Xiao Chao, but you also have Shangxiang and Sun Tzu to do good things. You have 2 Zhang Jiaos, which is actually incredible here as a way to mitigate the damage that you are taking from fire aggro, while also being able to continue to put pressure on the board with another ally. And 1 copy of Yuan Shao is hilarious because giving Arthur pride is very effective in the fire aggro mirror. Also 4 copies of Blanche, because Blanche is a pretty solidly statted ally as a 2-cost 1/2, in addition to being able to stop a ton of damage that is coming your way.
Yeah, I highly recommend listening to some of the player interviews with Henki, because him talking about his deck building decisions is just, this dude is on another level.
He's built different. you're either collaborating with a huge team and you're gaining success together as a team, or you're hanky and you're built different and you plow through anyway.
Yeah, a lot of his decisions, I think, came down to specific attack lines.
Yeah.
And being able to get a certain amount of damage in off of a certain amount of reserve. But it's just he's so humble about it. And he just comes in, he's like, I don't know, it's a good card.
Yeah. I love every interview where I get to hear Hanky talk. It's always just really entertaining. And he definitely knows this stuff.
Yeah, he really does.
So, hey man, you did it. Good job, Hanky. I'm proud of you. This is an incredible deck. Incredible performance. In second place, our runner-up, Team True Terry, coming in from Fractals onto the Fire Aggro Xander list that we talked about briefly right before this.
So, those of you that are paying attention.
Yes.
First place, main deck Taylor.
Yes.
Fought through Cabin.
Cabin.
And then fought through Terry.
Yes.
On essentially mirror image decks.
Yes. Yes. So he also had a little bit of an advantage seeing what was being played. In addition to also probably knowing the players very, very well. And, man, there's not much to say about this deck that Terry was piloting in general. But, like, I have to say, he piloted it with such bravado.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Like, he just had, like, no fear and just sort of went for it and, you know, did the best he could. And he almost took it. Yeah. He almost took it.
So he actually did one of the things that I really, really love to see from high-level players in this sort of professional environment, which is rolling the dice.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't work, like, it still feels so cool. It feels so powerful. Sort of assessing the board, knowing what your outs are, and realizing that the only way you can win this game is if you not only make the right materialize, you also have to draw the right card.
Yep.
So him going, all right, well, my only out is draw Heated Vengeance. So my materialize, which otherwise looks like an absolutely doofus play, is going to be Impact
Hammer.
And it's like, that materialize without the Heated Vengeance doesn't look good.
Yeah.
But if he drew the Heated Vengeance, not only would he win that match, he would win that match looking like a goddamn genius.
It's great because, like, we in the audience, we see everything in his hand, so we have the advantage of knowing, like, that's a really bad idea. He doesn't have the card in hand. But his opponent doesn't know that.
Right.
And if he draws the right card...
Yeah, it reminds me, there's like a very, very famous Magic the Gathering tournament.
Yeah.
Where who's it, Yuto Watanabe, I think?
You know better than me, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's one of those similar plays where it's like kind of an aggressive deck into sort of a mid-rangey, more controlling, but not like controlling.
Yeah.
And it was just like, his only out was, I need to make this particular line to deal this much damage and then flip Lightning Bolt off the top of the deck.
And he flips it off the top of the deck.
And, you know, he looks like a luck sack, but all of it was calculated to my only out is drawing a source of 3 damage.
You love to see it when that happens.
Yeah,
honestly.
so
it's fantastic.
I'm a little sad that it didn't work out for Terry because it was such a cool play.
It would have been crazy, but like honestly, like it was still a very, very intense match.
Yeah.
And like he honestly played it. He played it great. So
anyway, back to the deck list.
Yes, I mean, if you were here for us talking about Caven's deck list, you know exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
So it's a very solid list, a very great aggressive list. I'm curious to see how this will affect other Xander lists going forward. Like we said, we think that this is kind of tailored towards the highest level of competition.
Absolutely.
This isn't necessarily stuff that you need to like factor in when you're going to like your normal like Ascent, your traditional regionals or Ascents, but you know, I think people are still going to try this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could take inspiration from this.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of factors that went into building this deck that don't matter if you are playing at a regionals.
Yeah.
Or like, even if you are playing at a regular Ascent, right? Because the caliber of your opponent is going to be different. And the circumstances of your game are going to be different.
Yeah, like in your games, if you take this to a regional or Ascent, you could lose the die roll and go second, and that's going to totally change your performance, basically.
Right, absolutely.
So, anyway, hey, it worked well here. But there could only be one champion, and that is in first place, main deck Taylor, Bobo.
Yeah, God, such an absolutely deserved performance.
So I have never seen anyone hard read quite in the same way that Taylor did in the World Championships. And like, I don't want to spoil it in too much, but like, God, like when the cards are down and it looks grim, leave it to one man to just completely flip the table.
Yeah, it was a great show, great performance, and entirely deserved win.
Absolutely. So Taylor's list is it starts off sort of with like a lot of traditional stuff that you might see here. Your main deck is kind of what you'd expect. You have a Censor in the main material deck, which kind of makes sense because you're sort of respecting Genbu. In the main deck, we see 3 Brackish Ludus, which is absolutely a nod to saying, hey, Genbu is here and it's probably going to mess me up. And then we have a little bit of respect towards the Fractals with the Scatter Essence here, which definitely started very well. Other than that, it's kind of a lot of the similar stuff that we're used to seeing.
And I would kind of expect this to be a more standard deck.
Yeah.
Considering that for Taylor, Tristan is a comfort pick.
I will point out, because this wasn't sort of present in the early versions of Tristan, but like the 3 Ascent Protectors here really sort of cement this as like a really solid mid-rangey pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me. I honestly, I love seeing Ascent Protector in this list now. I think it's a huge, great investment. Other than that, it's kind of what you expect, you know? You got your lookouts, your engineers, your Saudis, your ensnaring fumes, all the good stuff. Yeah, all the good stuff.
Standard Shadow Strike.
You know,
stuff.
slice and dice them, Shadow Strike them however you want. Take them out. In the board, you have another Brackish Ludus.
Sure.
A Grail and a Safeguard, because that is very important with all the stuff flying around in this top 8. 2 copies of Blanche, which did quite a lot of work.
Okay.
Quite a lot of work. A Stifling Trap, 2 Vertigus Decrees, and a Verdant Protective Trinket, sort of to round it all out. And there's really not much else to be said. I feel like you can't, like, the deck is important, but you cannot just look at the deck alone. You have to just look at how he played it, and he played it with, like, the way that he sort of changed his play going from the first 2 games through the rest of the whole circuit was crazy.
Yeah, what a performance,
it was
man.
Wild. So
if
you want to hear more, I would definitely, again, check out the stream, but also listen to the interview, listen to the post-game interview. It's a very heartfelt, very strong, great interview. And shout outs to the main deck folks, because I'm sure they're going to be talking about this a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they'll have a lot to talk about. That's the World Champs.
Man.
So, boy.
What a ride.
It was such a ride.
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed being at the event. It was great to be able to sit in the audience for that finals.
Yeah, yeah.
And just kind of watch the energy in that crowd was wild.
Yeah,
The energy from the commentators was really good. Like there was a lot of good feedback in terms of like, you know, us playing off of them playing off of us.
Yeah.
It was just a great experience.
Just hearing the various team members like sort of like just coaching and sort of cheering from the sidelines was really great. And just with each of us being able to sort of like have our own thoughts about like where we thought the game was going, and then just have our expectations just wildly shattered.
Yeah.
It was really, really fun. So good times. So
would go again.
Maybe
not to Singapore though.
Oh, I'm going to Singapore. I'm saving my time. I'm getting ready.
Excellent.
I'll do what I have to. I've been waiting for this. In terms of takeaways, again, this is the highest level of competition. Right. So while a lot of the like micro optimizations may not necessarily be as important to other folks going to like Ascents or regionals, like this is sort of an idea of what you can expect should you get up to the highest level, right?
Yeah. I mean, and also we can sort of the broader picture takeaway of like Genbu's good. Fractal's still good.
Fractal's still good, right?
This is what people want to play into sort of the highest tier of competition.
Yeah,
it's a lot of Genbu, but it's also a decent chunk of Fractals, a decent chunk of Win Luxem, a decent chunk of Shadow Strike, and I think they also said this during the interview, but what's more important than almost anything is picking something you're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Picking something that you have some practice with, and that you feel good about.
I fall into the trap often of wanting to try a little bit of everything, but like just it's important to have a deck that you can fall back on and feel is reliable. So, if you found that, great. If not, keep looking. There'll be plenty more to try, especially as the new set comes out, which, speaking of, let's talk about the end phase.
Yeah. Let's move into the end phase.
So we got the DTR debut at Worlds, which was very exciting. We both had a chance to play the starter decks a little bit, right? So what did you have any good first impressions about?
So I was on the Diana starter.
Yes.
And the Etherwing mechanic is pretty neat.
I like it.
I really like the idea. I really like the gameplay sort of maneuvering of, okay, I'm gonna glimpse 4. Of those 4, I'm going to just shove 3 of them onto my bow.
Yeah.
And then whatever with the last card, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And then just attack you for 5.
Yep.
Like that feels real good.
It's really cool. It's very, very fun. I did get the privilege of taking it to a locals. It's one of those decks where like I feel like the real test is going to be how does it handle the like wider field of interaction outside of just the starter decks.
Absolutely.
Does better than I thought it did.
Excellent.
Honestly.
Happy to hear it.
So yeah, I think it has the interaction windows for the Etherwing compared to sort of the guns is a lot narrower, I think. So you have a bit more flexibility. You will still have to deal with things like this horse, the broken Mustang, and, you know, Baby Green, the committer of war crimes. But I think there are still windows that you can do good things with.
I will say the interaction between the two starter decks specifically, so my experience with the starter deck was
Oh, yeah.
in the starter deck tournament, right? And I think in the tournament that I played, I ended up into 2 Diana Mirrors and then into CL for the last.
Oh, yeah.
And my experience with that specifically is that CL is a very defensive starter into the sort of more aggressive Diana starter. And the Diana starter doesn't have a lot of ways of dealing with that defense. You have to hit strong, you have to hit early, and you have to hit with overwhelming force, because if you let them build up more than one defender, more than one taunter or interceptor, and then sit back on their cards, Diana has no way through in the default starter.
At that point, you were really relying on the top-end meteoric volley to make your cards unblockable, which is still dependent on them putting their hand down.
Right, exactly.
Which is very, very difficult at that point because they can just sort of prepare for it. So that's something you definitely have to be prepared for, and that's something that I think we'll have to see how people interact. We have some few ideas. I kind of want to shove a comment fall in there just for fun.
Sure.
Just to say, like, interceptors, what interceptors? Just blow them up.
Yep.
Be fine. That might be a little janky, though, so we'll see.
That said, the CL deck, the starter deck, is also a heavy hitter. It's just kind of more of a late game. It's not as aggressive.
Yeah.
And what it does is it sits behind a couple of big interceptors or big taunters and then comes out with the heavy swings.
I will say I did appreciate seeing them create another sort of long game fire deck. I think that is something that I want to see more of. I kind of miss sort of the Merlin mid-ranges type of play. I kind of want to see them explore that in more detail. So I hope that that's kind of where the direction goes for. But I could be wrong. We could just see a bunch of angry fire CLs just coming in here. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have also been deep in the DTR spoiler season. There's been a lot to talk about.
I will say, regardless of anything else that comes out from DTR, I am looking forward to trying one thing and one thing only. And that is putting an Omen counter on Advent of the Mad God and Baleful Oblating somebody for 15.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I understand. That sounds great. Hit hard and hit fast.
That's what I want to do.
I
don't know if
respect-
this is going to be good, but it's definitely what I want to do.
Commit to the bit.
Absolutely.
As for me, I was the insane person screaming on day 0 after pulling a Moonpiercer CSR, so I think I am locked into Diana for the season. I have seen none of her cards. I have no idea if this is a horrible mistake. We will find out in maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And regardless, I'm on this train.
Seems legit.
So yeah, we're going to see. I am hoping that we get some cool win stuff, because that's sort of where I expect the really broken stuff to be. But I could be wrong. Maybe water's the way to go.
Yeah.
Water often is. So,
And
we'll see.
I mean, there's a ton of new spoilers coming out every day. So,
Exactly. This could change
once we start
about that.
seeing what the actual cards are in the set. Who knows where we'll be? At.
We just found out about the suited archetype and all the good stuff that it has, and we've also found out that Chessmen might be an archetype, and we've been singing about it.
There sure are some linear keywords.
There are a number of typal keywords that may or may not be relevant in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
We will find out how relevant they are. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited for on the horizon.
Absolutely.
And I guess we'll have to see how it all shakes out before the next big tournament. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think we are a ways away from our next big event.
Yes, the next big event will be the start of the next season, DTR season, in August, which I believe is going to be in Boston. And that's going to be interesting because it's going to be the Wild West, as it were. So we'll see just what things are in store. I'm very... Oh, yeah. I am also just generally excited for the future of Grand Archive because, as usual, they did their big roadmap for the next coming year or so.
It's looking busy.
It's very busy. There's some interesting things, though. The next couple sets certainly sound interesting. The prizes that they've announced for Ascents are very spicy. Yep. I'm going to have to sort of brush off the training wheels and really get to work on that to see if we can score some of those premium Ghost of Pendragon. And then they announced potentially a new casual format, which is probably not something that we'll cover at least here, but I'm excited to see where it goes, and if it ends up being popular, maybe we'll spin off a little something to talk about it. We'll see.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say is, depending on whether or not we have time coming up in between now and the next big event, we might put out a draft episode.
Yeah, A and B draft is definitely something that you will be seeing a lot of if you go to Ascent.
Yeah, and it also seems like it's here to stay. So the way
Yeah.
kind of they're doing this draft format is still going to be with A and B for a while yet, until we come out with a big draftable set. And I suspect what's going to happen then is we're going to see some updates to the draft pack.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the draft pack is going to stay very similar. And I think that's a really cool way to do it.
Yeah, I think so
but
too.
of course, all this is entirely speculation. I don't know what I'm talking about.
My big speculation is they've mentioned that set 9 will be sort of a capstone set that sort of covers things happening on all of the different worlds we've gone to so far, and might be a big story set. You should make that draftable, Weebs.
I hope.
I think that's a great thing to draft, and you could have everyone draft all the really cool things from all over the sets so far.
But despite AMB no longer being the new hotness, AMB as a draft format still holds up.
Yep.
And I hope we get the chance to talk
Yeah,
about it.
I would love to talk about that in a bit more detail. So that's something to look forward to in the future. For now, though, I think we're going to sign off. So, as always, thank you to Weebs of the Shore and TM32 and everybody on the production team over there who made Worlds such a really awesome event.
Just a great show.
Just a wonderful event. Shout outs to everyone who came over and talked to us. Shout outs to Abdul13 for carrying us on his shoulders throughout a team standard.
His back must have hurt by the end of that.
Also for carrying the world champion who generously shouted him out as being a great site. Go check out Fractal Insight, guys. If you haven't, what are you doing?
Yeah, if you want to look at the raw data, that is absolutely the way to do it.
We pull that for every episode. Please do yourself a favor. Check it out. And a big shout out to everyone who congratulated me for opening a Diana Moonpiercer CSR and simultaneously made me an offer. I'm sorry. I'm keeping it. But, I appreciate the shout outs nonetheless. So with that, thank you for listening to the Corhazi Outlook. Please look forward to our next episode. It could be draft. It could be Ascend Boston. Who knows? You'll just have to tune in and find out. But until then, take care.
Take care.